Greetings, adventurers. You're listening to The Quiet Journeys of Professor Atwood with me, Professor Atwood. I'm glad you're here, and I can't wait to tell you about my latest journey. Don't worry, it's a safe space. I'll handle all the danger for you. I designed these stories to help you relax, chill anxiety, and go to sleep. Maybe they'll even put a smile on your face, even if it's a sleepy smile. So please, settle in, relax, and prepare to quietly drift off with me to parts known, unknown, and even some places in between. Comfortable? Very well. Let's get underway. Good evening, adventurers. I hope you're doing well. I also hope you're warm and cozy and settled in because it's that time of year again. Tonight I'm going to tell you a very special story about Christmas on Mars. Now, interestingly, while the Martians have a few of their own Martian holiday traditions, they're mostly enamored by ours, and while they don't celebrate every Earth holiday, Christmas is a big one for them. And St. Patrick's Day, apparently. But I couldn't very well enjoy a holiday on any planet when there was a friend of mine who needed my immediate assistance. As you remember from last time, we'd explored the Martian ruins, which turned out to not be Martian at all, and they ended up being a half-built Mars-themed amusement park. This was, of course, surprising, but not half as surprising as locating Tom, the Futurist, at the so-called ruins and learning he was stuck in time, out of time, and also out of temporal phase. Bradley and I had to help him right away before we could enjoy the holiday, and I will tell you all about it in a moment. But first, it's the end of the year, and I want to just thank you for listening, adventurers. This show is a joy to create, and we're happy so many adventurers have joined us on our journeys. Happy listening, and I hope you all have a pleasant and restful holiday this season. Now, I did want to mention something about our stories, especially for the new listeners. They're designed for you to drift in and out of, and while yes, I do like to tell you a full story every episode, drifting in and out or falling completely asleep is factored into the equation. You can pick up things anywhere. That's why I do the story recaps at the beginning, and if you're here, awake, and hanging on every word, well, obviously we're flattered, and we try to add some additional flourishes and flavor in there just for you. So, by all means, enjoy the show any way you wish. It's designed that way. No rules and no pressure, adventurers. I'd also like to nudge you to rate the show with a bunch of stars. Reviews are great too. It's always nice to read pleasant things about what we're doing over here. And this is also very important. Don't forget to tell your friends directly about the show and post about it wherever you post about things. The more adventurers, the merrier. Now, before I mention the White Cat Adventurers Club, I want to remind you that we've created a Science and Adventure Helper donation link on the homepage. So just go to whitecatentertainment.com and click Donate for a one-time donation. Then you can do it whenever you like for whatever you like. We also encourage and accept end-of-year donations. But if you do want more, there's the White Cat Adventurers Club. You get early access and ad-free listening to the shows and an exclusive look at my very irregular journal. Science and exploring is expensive, and your support helps make it happen. For just $5 a month, you could show your support for the show. There are different tiers with different rewards, including an exclusive t-shirt and some graphic novels. Please go to patreon.com/whitecatentertainment and enjoy the access your way. All right then, let's get back to the story. As I said earlier, Bradley and I were speaking, albeit with some difficulty, with an incorporeal Tom the Futurist who was stuck in time in the middle of an incomplete Mars-themed amusement park on the surface of Mars. Once I had helped Tom get unstuck and back into the normal time flow, I would be very interested to hear the story behind that. Now, clearly these two things were related, as Tom was the manager of the Time City Resort in the Paleozoic era, so this half-built amusement park on Mars was clearly part of his company's expansion plans. But something seemed to have gone wrong. Once we helped Tom, we would get the whole story. Bradley and I were using our Martian spacesuits to take readings and record everything, as we would need the help of the Martian scientists and the use of their labs, for sure. Now, the Martian scientists, while advanced, did not really have experience with time travel, and it didn't really interest them, to be honest. So that would be a challenge as well. There wasn't much more we could do there, and to help Tom, Bradley and I would have to go back to the Martian inner city. Tom suspected as much, and thanked us in advance for helping him. While I was unsure how yet, I confidently told Tom we would figure it out. I didn't want him to worry. Bradley and I began the walk back to the Martian access hatch and discussed the dilemma. He asked me what I thought, and I said I was still thinking about it. I had several theories and directions I was mulling over in my head, but I wasn't really sure what the final plan would end up being. Bradley mentioned that getting Tom unstuck in time wasn't the only issue. We also had to fix his slide out of time phase. But we couldn't fix his phase problem until he was unstuck in time. I was thinking about that too, and Tom said it was because of a malfunctioning time anchor coupled with being stuck in a time storm. It really just was bad timing. And I'll admit, that sometimes happens in adventuring. Even after careful planning with the most sophisticated of technology, sometimes you're at the mercy of nature anyway, and sometimes you just roll snake eyes. There's always a certain amount of risk, danger, and luck in adventuring. Now, as adventurers, we don't always like to admit it, but when things go wrong, and it's things we prepared for, and they still go wrong, and sometimes get worse, you could call it a string of random negative occurrences, or just shorten it and call it luck. I've said it before, as a scientist, I don't necessarily believe in luck, but it's there, and I have experienced it in both flavors over the years, both good and bad, and sometimes I've experienced both of them unusually close together. For instance, it was good luck when a giant squid that was attacking our submarine had a heart attack. All three of its hearts at the same time. And then bad luck when the giant squid expired right on top of our submarine, pinning us to the ocean floor. Then good luck again when a swarm of hungry, migrating fiddler crabs scuttled past and we were soon free in no time. So while I still believe these are random universal occurrences that we tag a morality label on, luck is, arguably, just easier and quicker to say. Anyway, we had reached the Martian surface access hatch and were soon on our way back down to the underground Martian inner city. The elevator doors slid open and we were a bit surprised at what we saw. We weren't gone for very long, but the Martians had been quite busy in our absence. As I had mentioned before, Earth Christmas was a big holiday for the Martians. They loved all the traditions, from decorations to gift-giving. What made it a bit more challenging was the absence of the color red, but interestingly, Earth Christmas got a pass. Since it was considered a foreign custom, red was allowed for the season, and then quickly removed after the holiday, usually around when we have New Year's Day. The Martians used a similar calendar, but with longer months, as a Martian year is about 687 days, of course. Anyway, in the short time we had been gone, they had decorated the entire Martian inner city for Christmas. Music piped in through the streets. Lights, decorations, and garland were hung from every street pole and building. The smell of cider and fresh-baked cookies filled the streets. Martian shoppers were out buying gifts, and the anticipation of the Martian children was palpable. It was quite festive. I had not been here for Christmas before, so this was a new experience. Now, as you know, Bradley and I love Christmas, especially Bradley, who is literally from Christmastown, near the North Pole, so it was easy to immediately get caught up in the joyful spirit. But the truth is, I couldn't let myself get distracted, no matter how much I wanted to be. I still had to help Tom and get him unstuck in time. But I'll admit, I was hoping to get it done sooner rather than later to enjoy the holiday. I felt a little bad for Bradley, who would miss another Christmas away from his family in Christmastown, but he didn't seem to mind. He was just there with Dolores and expected not to be there this year anyway, with everything going on and being on another planet. It turns out they had celebrated early, before our departure, and had a fantastic time. The residents of Christmastown and the mayor even had a special Christmastown off-season cookie festival just for Dolores. She had a blast, and they would plan another trip later after we returned to Earth. After the festive walk back to the inner city, I called another meeting with both crews and King Targon. I informed everyone about what was happening, and King Targon did look a little embarrassed, but after talking to Tom, I didn't hold it against him. Tom had instructed the king not to give me the details so he could give them to me himself. King Targon also added that the Martian labs and scientists were at my disposal, which I appreciated. I recruited both flight engineers, Kara and Brian with a Y, along with Bradley, and followed King Targon down to the Martian science labs. Flight Commander Barry said they had made significant progress on the sentient meteor storm issue, and that he could take it from there while I borrowed Kara and Brian with a Y. King Targon introduced me to his chief scientist, Glomram, and told Glomram that the labs were at my disposal and to provide me every courtesy. I thanked the king and said we needed to get to work right away so we could all enjoy the holiday. Incredibly, even the science lab was decorated for Christmas. Mistletoe, holly, wreaths, and what looked like a Martian version of candy canes were all over the lab, but there was a sign on the candy canes that said, "Not for humans." So I wasn't sure if that was for safety, or the Martian scientists were just very possessive of their candy canes. Relaxing Christmas music also continued to play in the lab. King Targon then took his leave, and I addressed Glomram and his scientists. It was clear what we had to do. We would have to create a portable tachyonic field and get Tom's time ghost, well, for lack of a better term, into it and then get him back into the proper time phase. The problem was, generating tachyons, let alone enough for a field, was not an easy task, and even more difficult a planet away from my lab. If I had my rapid time deployment amphibious vehicle, or Retweet Dave, with me, then I could convert the power source to generate a tachyonic field and place it inside a portable power tachyon matrix, thus creating the needed field. But, no sense in spending time on if-only wishful thinking. I had to do with the resources I had available. At first, I needed to find out exactly what those resources were. But first, I had to give the Martian scientists a refresher on tachyons, as it was not their main field of study or experimentation. A tachyon, or tachyonic particle, is a hypothetical, not really, particle that always travels faster than light. Physicists believe that faster-than-light particles cannot exist because they are inconsistent with the known laws of physics. If such particles did exist, they do, they could be used to send signals faster than light. According to the theory of relativity, this would violate causality, leading to logical paradoxes such as the grandfather paradox, which we talked about last time. Tachyons exhibit the unusual property of increasing in speed as their energy decreases, thus making them ideal for time travel. The term tachyon was coined by Gerald Feinberg in a 1967 paper titled Possibility of Faster-Than-Light Particles. He had been inspired by the science fiction story Beep by James Blish. Feinberg studied the kinematics of such particles according to special relativity. In his paper, he also introduced fields with imaginary mass, now also referred to as tachyons, in an attempt to understand the microphysical origin such particles might have. The first hypothesis regarding faster-than-light particles is sometimes attributed to physicist Arnold Sommerfeld, who, in 1904, named them metaparticles. In September 2011, it was reported in a major release by CERN that a tau neutrino had traveled faster than the speed of light. However, later updates from CERN on the OPERA experiment indicate that the faster-than-light readings were due to a faulty element of the experiment's fiber optic timing system. Now, this was of course the cover story for the press release. In reality, one of the lab assistants accidentally got sent back in time and met Napoleon during his conquest of Europe. The CERN scientists were able to retrieve him just before he was sent to the Russian front, so the timing was fortunate. Anyway, in modern physics, all fundamental particles are regarded as localized excitations of fields. Tachyons are unusual because the instability prevents any such localized excitations from existing. Any localized perturbation, no matter how small, starts an exponentially growing cascade that strongly affects physics everywhere inside the future light cone of the perturbation. Although the notion of a tachyonic imaginary mass might seem troubling because there is no classical interpretation of an imaginary mass, the mass is not really quantized. Rather, the scalar field is, even for tachyonic quantum fields. The field operators at space-like separated points still commute, or anticommute, thus preserving causality. Therefore, information still does not propagate faster than light, and solutions grow exponentially, but not superluminally. There is no violation of causality. Now, I'll admit, it's a confusing term. Imaginary mass doesn't really mean pretend mass. Imaginary mass really means that the system has become unstable. And the system needs to be stabilized to be useful, and that would be the first step in creating our needed tachyonic field. The zero-value field is at a local maximum rather than a local minimum of its potential energy, much like a ball at the top of a hill. A very small impulse, which will always happen due to quantum fluctuations, will lead the field to roll down with exponentially increasing amplitudes toward the local minimum. In this way, tachyon condensation drives a physical system that has reached a local limit and might naively be expected to produce physical tachyons to an alternative stable state where no physical tachyons exist. Once the tachyonic field reaches the minimum of the potential, its quanta are not tachyons anymore, but rather are ordinary particles with a positive mass squared, such as the Higgs boson. And therein lies the rub. We needed to create tachyon particles and have them stay tachyon particles, and we needed enough of them to create a stable tachyonic field. Unfortunately, Glomrom and his scientists simply didn't have anything that could generate tachyons and then keep them in a stable field. But then I thought about the terraforming discussions. There had to be an artificial way to create a Mars magnetic field to keep the ozone and atmosphere in at some point, or the terraforming wouldn't work. I asked about that, and they said, sure. They had an artificial planetary magnetic field all warmed up and ready to go, but it was only good for terraforming a planet. Well, I then asked if a smaller, more portable version could be created. Glomrom's eyes widened, and he said, yes, it could be done, as long as they solved the spontaneous symmetry breaking issue. But if they followed a condensed matter physics model, like ferromagnetism, it could work. I mean, that made perfect sense, and the best example of in-particle physics that we needed was the Higgs mechanism in the Standard Model, of course. So, I mean, that was great so far. That would work to contain the portable tachyonic field. Glomram said they would get started on it right away. Brian with a Y had some experience with the Higgs mechanism, so he would assist them. So one issue down and one rather large one to go. How would we generate enough tachyons for a field to help Tom? And quickly. I began to sketch some formulas and thought about using the John Carter's positronic antimatter drive. Maybe I could convert it to a small quantum field generator. Then we would have to create tachyon particles from excitations of the quantum field. But that would take time and most likely require resources we simply didn't have available to us. And then it hit me. It was so obvious. I don't know why I didn't think of it before. Why create something when you can just gather it? We had just searched a half-built amusement park, clearly from the future, from top to bottom. There would be enough residual tachyons for us to collect, even if we had to harvest them from every half-built attraction and snack stand. It should be relatively simple. And once we had Glomram's portable containment system, we could harvest and build the tachyonic field right on the spot. I informed everyone of my theory, and we all got to work. Kara immediately began working with the Martian scientists on portable tachyon harvesting wands, and Bradley and I went to assist Glomram on the containment system. The other issue was getting Tom back in the correct time phase, but once he was in the tachyonic field, I knew that could be accomplished. Everyone was motivated to save Tom and also get back to the Christmas festivities, and I can't say I blame them for that. The Martians really did Earth Christmas right. It took some time, but after an eggnog break, soon Glomram, Brian with a Y, and a team of Martian scientists had put together a portable electromagnetic containment system for a tachyon field. It also needed an extra power source connected because once we had the field created, we needed to excite the tachyons before we could get Tom into the field and get him unstuck in time. Soon after, the tachyon collection wands were ready as well. Everyone was very motivated, and as I said, everyone wants to help Tom, and then most likely they want to drink hot chocolate and cider and open presents. I mean, we all did. With all of the new equipment we needed, we set off to the so-called ruins. Glomram was one of the few Martians who enjoyed exploring the surface, so he volunteered to come with us, along with Bradley, Kara, and Brian with a Y. I would have liked to have tested everything a little bit more, but I was very confident in the Martian scientists' abilities and wasn't too worried. We were on our way back through the Martian inner city when King Targon stopped us and wished us good hunting. He also said there should not be any interruptions, as the Martian probe avoidance team was on the other side of the planet, where the probes were, and there shouldn't be any interference, even from NASA's Ingenuity probe helicopter, which caused the Martian probe avoidance team a lot of extra work, making sure it never saw anything too interesting. After another trip up on the elevator and through the Martian surface access hatch, we were walking up the ridge towards the half-built Martian amusement park. I gave Kara and Brian with a Y a brief explanation about Tom, the Time City Resort, the Paleozoic era, and time-traveling amusement parks, but I was met with a bit of stunned silence, which was completely understandable. Soon we were over the Martian ridge and approaching the half-built amusement park. I instructed everyone to initialize their tachyon collection wands, and Glomram prepared the portable tachyonic field containment system. We needed somewhere to put them as soon as they were collected. I told everyone to get to work immediately as soon as we had reached the park, and as everyone concentrated on collecting the tachyons, I looked for Tom's time ghost. I soon found him in pretty much the same spot as before. He asked how long I had been gone, and was surprised it was so short a time. When you're stuck in and out of time, it tends to lose meaning, and you're not really sure how much time is or isn't passing outside in the normal time flow. I could tell it was a bit disconcerting for the rest of the crew to see Tom's time ghost shimmer over the Martian ground, but after just explaining time-traveling amusement parks, I think they were less surprised by it. I told Tom our plan and also spoke with him about part 2 of it, which was getting him back in the correct time phase. He thought for a moment and said it sounded like it just might work and became excited about being corporeal again. I really hoped this was going to work. Otherwise, I'd be spending Christmas with a time ghost on Mars in some ironic version of a Charles Dickens story. I turned my attention back to the park buildings. I was correct, and there were indeed residual tachyons clinging to every single one, but not many, as most had been dispersed over time. We needed the residual tachyons from every ride and snack shack to stand a chance of helping Tom in time for Christmas. Everyone worked diligently and efficiently, and soon Glomrom's tachyonic field containment system was full. Step 1 complete. We then attached the portable generator and powered up the system. We needed to excite the tachyon particles inside to create a stable field large enough for Tom. After a few minutes, everything was powered up and the tachyonic field was generated. There was a faint glow emanating from the tachyonic field, so we knew it was active. It was time. We would only get one shot at this. As soon as we opened the containment system to allow Tom entry, there would be immediate tachyon loss, so it had to be within the range of our tachyonic disbursement margins for success. Bradley and I positioned the tachyonic field containment system and then opened it for Tom to enter. Tom really couldn't move much, so we made sure it was open right in front of him. He only needed to take one step. But something was wrong. He was too out of phase to even take that one step. The rest of the crew saw this and immediately jumped in, and I told everyone to push. If he couldn't enter the tachyonic field, we'd have to bring the tachyonic field to him. We pushed the entire system to him, and Tom entered the field. There was a whooshing sound, which we weren't really expecting in a soft vacuum, and a flash of light, and Tom was more visible than ever, but still shifting back and forth. He was still out of time phase, but he was unstuck and back in the normal time flow. Almost there. I had discussed this with him earlier. To get Tom to the right time phase, it was kind of like going to the optometrist. As he was looking at us out of the tachyonic field, in the correct time flow but still out of phase, I kept repeating, better this way or better this way. We were narrowing down the right path for Tom to take to get back in phase. Once Tom had found the right focus and phase, he could walk out of the field and back into the correct time phase. It took some time and a few tries, but Tom eventually narrowed his choices down and walked out of the tachyonic field, focused and fully restored. We all erupted in cheers, and Tom and I greeted each other properly and hugged. It was the second spacesuit hug I'd experienced in as many days. He asked if he missed Christmas, and we said no, he was just in time. He said that made him happy, and he would return with us to the Martian inner city to enjoy the festivities. But first, he said, he needed to stabilize the amusement park. He told us to go on ahead and he would catch up. At first, I was quite against that idea, as we had just gotten him back. He laughed and assured us he would not get stuck in time again, he promised. He would fix his time anchor, clean things up, and join us before we knew it. I wanted to hear the full story of this amusement park and how he became stuck in time, but I guess that would have to wait for now. I reluctantly left him and we began the short walk back to the Martian surface access hatch. It was another short walk back through the Martian inner city, and the Christmas festivities were in full swing. Hot apple cider and the laughter of Martian children was everywhere. The Martian scientists had also simulated snow in parts of the city, so the children were building snowmen and sledding down small hills as the snow gently fell from generators high above us. I didn't see a "not for humans" sign anywhere, and let a snowflake fall on my tongue. It tasted just like Christmastown snow, and Bradley confirmed. It was quite impressive. Dolores had met us at the hatch and walked back with us, holding Bradley's hand. She even gave me a report that the journeyman was in tip-top shape and that Flight Commander Barry was keeping everything running smoothly. I looked at the Martian snow and listened to the laughter of the Martian children, the adults, and my crew. I smiled and let the warmth of the season fill me. There were worse places to spend Christmas, that's for sure. When we returned to the throne room and the inner city, we were just in time for dinner. Queen Malanidia was in charge of the Christmas dinner, and she made it extra special this year because of our visit. The Christmas dinner was nothing short of spectacular, with delicacies from both planets. Everything from a roast turkey that Jillian must have brought, to whatever Aaron and his new Martian hunter friends had caught. There were many, many sides, from mac and cheese to Martian polenta, which was a lot tastier than it sounds. We were halfway through dinner when Tom joined us, and this time I gave him a proper hug. I was also relieved. I wanted to be done with tachyonic fields for the season. We laughed, and everyone enjoyed the festivities, the dinner, and each other's company. For dessert, there was everything from fig pudding to an assortment of Christmas cookies. While everyone was quite full by then, everyone found just a little more room for a couple more cookies. After dinner had ended, we were about to go to the drawing room to relax and open presents. I had foreseen that we would be here for Christmas and made sure we brought presents for the royal family with us. They loved Earth games and toys, so I had brought an assortment with me, all fully wrapped. NASA thought it was odd, but mission specialist Janet understood the delicate nature of the mission concerning the terraforming negotiations and approved the extra cargo. She also picked out the wrapping paper. But before we left the table, Tom got up, clinked a glass to get everyone's attention, and said he had one last Christmas surprise in store for everyone, but we all had to come with him back to the ruins. That didn't seem like a good idea, but Tom insisted. Very well. Everyone trusted Tom, except maybe Dolores and possibly Janet. Plus, everyone was quite curious at this point, so we all agreed and donned our spacesuits. We went back up the elevator once again and back out onto the Martian surface for the third time, really. As we climbed the small ridge, we started hearing music piped into our suits. And then we saw the evidence of lights coming from the ruins. Once we scaled the ridge and were at the top, we couldn't believe what we saw. The Martian amusement park was complete and decorated for Christmas. It was beautiful. We all hurried closer. A dome enclosed the entire park now, and Tom opened a hatch and we all walked through. I guess it was at this point that we all stopped calling them ruins. He said we could take off our suits now. This was a Christmas gift, he said, to Mars. Regardless of the terraforming agreement, I would need to hear more about that later, that's for sure, the amusement park was finished. I mean, time travel is tricky, but Tom was able to get the park completed in the future while we were having dinner, and then brought it back to the past. Very efficient. We were in awe, and it was quite a Christmas gift. And I will tell you all about the fully functional Martian amusement park from the future and how it fit into the plethora of Martian mysteries next time. But before I end this evening's holiday story, I want to talk to you about something. I just want you to understand how important it is to spend holidays with friends and family. It's a time for us to reconnect, to slow down, to relax, and of course, enjoy the time. Now, while Tom was literally stuck in time, we get that way, in a way, ourselves sometimes. Nothing changes. Nothing moves forward. Christmas is a time to change all that. You get to slow down, spend time with family and friends, and enjoy the company and the season. Now, commercially, you're supposed to do the opposite and make it your job to run around and buy things and send out cards that no one reads and decorate every inch of your house. I mean, do those things if you wish, But understand, you don't have to, and only do them if they bring you joy. Make the priority spending that important time with friends and family. Again, slow down. Feel the joy and peace in your heart. Also, try to keep a little piece of it with you throughout the year, and you'll find you just might get unstuck in time. Good night, Merry Christmas, and Happy Holidays, adventurers.
The Quiet Journeys of Professor Atwood was created, written, and performed by Chris Mancini and produced by White Cat Entertainment. It is a work of fiction. Maybe. Music and sound design by Ron Tansky at rontanskymusic.com. For more info and merchandise, including t-shirts, mugs, and blankets, go to whitecatentertainment.com.